Here we go. Welcome to session of the step study. I think it's like, I'm not even going to guess. 16 or 17, I think. Bravo to you guys for being
Really?
maybe 15. I don't know, but somewhere in there.
Wow.
The high numbers, the nosebleed numbers. Okay, so we've talked about steps one, steps two, steps three, steps four, and steps five. And we didn't really read the book on steps four and step five. And maybe that's an oversight on my part. And, since it's a step study, we're supposed to be studying the steps, but I don't care. It's like there's only so much energy for the things that really matter. Got to stick with the things that really matter. I think it's pretty safe to say that we dug deep in the fourth and the fifth step. Yes, and have examined. So and that's a good kind of thing. It's like I said, we're not doing this as a homework assignment. We're not following the letter of the law. We're trying to follow the true intention and the spirit of the law. And in a lot of cases, in step six, which reading it again, I'm not super fond of. Um, there's a lot of for me following the spirit of this law. Step six, like became entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. Like I think that is a very important idea. And then the way they address it in this book, there's things that I like in it. So what I've sort of resolved to do, and I made you guys do this assignment, and now I feel guilty and bad about it. Like I should crawl in a hole or something. But because, to sort of take the actions out of this was tough to me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be open to whatever ones you wrote down and that were meaningful to you, but I'm going to give you the ones that I think are the most important to focus on in terms of this step, because there was a couple of things in there that I agree with, and the rest of it for me is a little bit rubbish, which is this is where we get into the very dangerous territory here, where I'm calling portions of the 12 and 12 rubbish. Um, so let me say this. So everything we're about to hear and talk about today is my personal opinion, even though I may not be stating it that way all the time. That's why I'm saying this up front. This is all my personal opinion. Um, and wherever I'm going away from the text is because I feel like there is a better way to be true to the idea, if that makes sense. And I do believe that even some of the things that my sponsors gave me to do transcend what's in the book, in terms of really trying to really be ready to let go of these things. Okay, so enough preface. Let's jump in. So the first thing about this step is I would say do whatever you need to do to be ready to let go of the character defects, whatever that is for you. So that's incredibly unique. I will suggest things that are universal that I think will be helpful, but what do you have to do to be ready to let go of this? So in this conversation, we're going to be completely changing our attitudes, I think, toward character defects, which I don't really call them. In the book at one point, they called character defects sin, which I'm like, wow, that's I know, right? That's like, whoa, okay. Sure. Um, which
Mm.
of course, sin doesn't even really mean sin. If you look at the original meaning in the Greek, it means to miss the mark, and I think that's an even not the best way to say it. But if you said miss the point, if you're missing the point, that's what sin really means. It's like you're kind of lost and headed in the wrong direction. So it's not this punitive thing like you'll be punished. It's like, no, 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 let me help you. You've wandered off the path. If you think that greed is going to give you the things that you need, we're not hating you for that. We're not condemning you to a lifetime, an eternity of torture. We're just saying, greed probably isn't the best path for you. Why don't you try something else, like trust or faith?
Mm.
That to me is a much more a better understanding of sin and the way to use it in a way that's actually helpful. Because I don't know that threatening somebody with eternal damnation is really, I mean, it can be a great motivator, I guess. But anyway, I digress. Okay. So the most important thing to remember about this is that everything we're talking about here is not different than anything else that we've been talking about. The key to recovery across the board is this one simple sentence. We are always choosing a lesser pain to cover up a greater pain.
Mm.
So, so think about this. We're going to go in and we're going to examine character defects. We're going to be ready to let go of them. Now, we've already done this. Does anybody know where we did it?
Step
Five.
one.
I, I'd say five closer. I'd say four, right? So what are resentments? Resentments are just a very big, huge character defect that everybody has. So they said this character defect is especially problematic. So we've already seen a way to deal with a very strong character defect, right? And how did we do that? So in the fourth step, again, what's the lesser pain? The lesser pain is the resentment and the anger that I feel towards somebody else. And it's covering up what? It's covering up the greater pain. So the formula, as always, is I need to find out what the greater pain is and stop using this thing as a protection mechanism, protecting me from it, because that's all these things ever are. And what's great about that is that simplifies everything for us because we don't have to remember, oh, should I work the sixth step on this or the first step on this or the fourth step on this? It's all the same. Can I identify what the false behavior is that I'm using to deflect, to defend, to numb out from, and can I get down to the real thing? Because once I get down to the real thing, it will start to dissolve. The symptom, the character defect will start to dissolve. So let me share one with you. And boy, this is going to be really funny in light of today's topic and the way that I've approached it. But so I was in this spiritual group of guys and have been for the past 25 years. And we stopped meeting regularly 6, 7, 8 years ago, but we meet every once in a while. And for many years, they said, Evan, you're everybody, everybody got to know each other's BS so well. They said, Evan, by far your greatest character defect is know-it-allism. Know-it-allism for sure. This is your big problem. And so I would go and I'd work on it. And then I'd be like, I'm pretty sure I've licked know-it-allism. And they would come back to me and they'd say, no, it's as bad as ever. And I'd be like, what are you talking about? And I would I'd go for years. I mean, years I would work on it. I'd come back and I'd go, okay, now I think I've got it. Right. And they're like, no, uh-uh. And so I banged my head against the wall trying to let go of this character defect. And so, um, and how did all that change for me? Because my relationship to it has definitely changed. There could be a very strong case made that I have not let go of know-it-allism at all. But my relationship to it has definitely changed. And what changed about it is I realized why I was using it. So that's one of the most important concepts to get. Why do I have this behavior? What is it here? What does it protect? We're at the end of the day today, I'm going to give you an exercise for you to work on over the week to sort of work with this. But what I realized when it really kind of came to a crisis, I realized, let's say I'm talking to somebody, I'm working with somebody, and I was afraid that they were going to go down the tubes. I was afraid that they were going to spiral. And why was I afraid of that? Why did that matter to me? Because I was afraid that I would go down the tubes. I was afraid that I would go down the tubes with them. So I couldn't let them go down the tubes. So you could call this Al-Anonism if you wanted to, right? It's like I can't just let them hit their bottom and all that. I've now become an expert at letting people hit their bottoms. Um, and that was what made the difference. And so I don't try to save people anymore. And so the know-it-allism came from like, look, I know the answer. I know how to save you. You just have to do this, this, and this, and this, and this. And people would resent that and they would push back against it. And now if somebody's committed to their misery and they want to stay in it, I'm like, okay, well that's sure. That's fine. Just don't get any on me. I'm not interested. But you're welcome to your own misery, you know. I certainly root for people, but and so in that way, I'm not trying to and do you see the setup there? Do you see the mechanism? It even looks like I'm trying to be helpful. You see why that's so dastardly? but I'm not. I'm trying to save them to, I'm trying to fix them to save me, which again, that's the height of insanity. So here I'm in the height of insanity, telling them that I know the answer to their problems. And they're like pushing back, going, God, get away from me. So there's an example of a character defect, which is a big one for me, right? Where I saw what was underneath it. And like my relationship with Mandy is completely different. Like you guys saw a couple weeks ago, she came to one of the 5 day challenges and like didn't like it because she's not ready to have me be her teacher or guide or something like that. Just doesn't work in our relationship. I don't do that anymore. And I used to do that all the time with her. And that's where the know-it-allism came from. I used to be like, no, no, look, you do it like this, right? Because I need her to change in order for me to feel safe. But I don't. I don't. And so, and it's like she doesn't need to come to the 5 days. It's fine. She's going to find her answers and do her thing her own way. But it was that grip of fear. That was the real issue. That was the real problem. And once that grip of fear went away, I didn't need to try to grip onto somebody else, hold on to them, and try to change them. Does that make sense? Show of hands, who here still thinks that I'm an impossible know-it-all? Okay, good. Okay, so the way that I think about step six is I think about step six is step one for character defects. And I have kind of a little rule for this. So if I can become entirely ready to let go of this, then I can start at step six. And if I try to become entirely ready and I can't, then I've got to take this all the way back to step one. It's too big for step six. So really, I would say these are all addictions, right? Every character defect is an addiction. And then the size or scale of it is what matters. If it's too big, I have to go back to step one and just surrender all the way. Yes, sir. Wait, hold on. While you're asking this question, I have to turn on a fan because it is hot in Palm Desert. Go
Okay.
ahead.
Yeah, we had a little bit of a heat wave here too last week. Uh, in your experience, uh, two quick questions. One is a little, what's the guy?
I
What?
should be doing, well, I should do one of these. Or
Yeah. Yes. What's the guy, the British comedian who
John Cleese.
John Cleese? No, but they had a TV show and it was like a lot of physical comedy. It's an older show, but like
Like Benny,
Benny Hill.
Benny Hill. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That was very Benny Hill just now a little bit.
Oh,
Okay,
there
yeah.
you go. Okay.
Um, with when just to rewind for a sec for to step four inventory, did we also, or maybe I missed it, or did we ever do a fear inventory in addition to a resentment inventory?
We wrote down all of our fears as we went.
Okay.
So the what you would do with your fear inventory is you could certainly add to it, but you would take everything from all your fear columns. So what we do is we go back and we rate our step four, and we'll do that here for step six. So, that's what I want you to do is I want you to go back and I want you to look at the character defects that got shown up here,
Okay.
4 and 5, and you're going to take these, you're going to harvest them, and you're going to look at them and you're going to say, okay, well, I'm not going to tell you the exercise yet. I'm saving that for the big finish.
Okay.
Yes, go ahead.
And then for example, like let's say scarcity. Oh, okay, two things. Because we're kind of working these on under earning.
Yeah.
Would under earning be the character defect, or is it like
Well,
scarcity?
I would say under earning is the disease, right?
Okay.
That's the main one that we're working on. So that's this big step one thing.
Oh,
And
okay.
you could say that the real culprit in under earning is fear of financial insecurity. If you
Right.
said that, I wouldn't be mad at you,
Okay.
right? So, so that may be the real disease that you're dealing with.
Because like when you're in your story, when you work the steps on under earning, and kind of had your essentially what maybe I'm going through, or I don't know, but that exorcism of like
Nervous breakdown, yes.
nerve, yeah. Um, you would encapsulate all of this underneath that umbrella of
Yeah.
your okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that's all part of the, the big ticket, the earning, the fear around money, all that stuff is part of, I would call the major disease, right?
Okay.
So then in terms of character defects around that, we'd have to look at them individually. So it's like scarcity. It's really, scarcity, that's fear. It's really character defect is more, what do I do to deal with that fear?
Okay.
Right? So it might be I shut people out, or I don't go on vacations, or you see what I'm saying? Like what are the things that I'm doing to try to protect myself from from these intense feelings?
I see. Okay.
Any other questions before we move on a little bit? Okay, so like I said, it's very simple, and especially in terms of what we've been talking about the last couple of weeks, it's the same formula. The character defect is the symptom. So lying is a character defect. You see how that's not a feeling? That's a solution for a feeling. So a character defect I call them character defenses, right? I don't call them character defects. It's just part of that harsh, you know, um, Anglican kind of, you know, sinful nature kind of thing. That's just a little bit not helpful, in my opinion. Um, but it's our fix. It's what we're trying to do, and we don't realize that. We don't realize that this is how we're trying to um, outrun our feelings, outrun our fears. Right. So what you might do is a character defense might be in response to financial fear, hoarding and hiding money under your mattress. So it's kind of what are you doing that is off? And you don't have to search too hard for these. These are the things in your life that people constantly are telling you and that are bothering them about you. Why are you always doing X? Those are likely your character defects.
Would you consider for similarly for the scarcity spiraling, like overthinking, is that a character defense?
Overthinking is absolutely obsession is the hallmark of the disease. Anytime you're
Oh,
an
okay.
obsession, you're absolutely in the disease, no question about it.
Got it.
Obsessing is a tool to help you manage your feelings.
Ah,
Okay, so let's see. Let's do this a little bit live here, and I guess I'll spill the beans on the assignment. So this is a great assignment. I didn't think of this one. This is my sponsor gave this to me. But and then next week, so I'm going to have you do this because I want you to first get to where this makes sense, where what we're doing here makes sense, where you're like, okay, I see the deal here. Okay. All right, I'm going to share my screen with you guys. I'm not going to have a little cutout dude on there as much as I enjoy being a puppet. Um, okay. Okay, so here's this fourth step. So how am I protecting myself? So here's some good ones here. I'm staying small, right? That is a character defense. That's what I'm doing in response to what, though? To what? That's the thing here. We need to find out why we're doing the things. And and they don't talk about that too much. Oh, before I get too far into this, let me actually stop this. Let's go through the book real quick, and I'll tell you the stuff that I think we should sort of pay attention to. Okay. All right. So some of this stuff I just have to point out just because it's fun for me. You guys can all see my screen, yeah? Okay. This is the step that separates the men from the boys. Now, for you ladies, I'm not sure how you feel about this. Um, Either you're not involved in this at all, or you have to be sifted into one of these two categories of men and boys. And I'm not sure how you feel about that. I would imagine not great. I just find that kind of funny, in a terrible, terrible way. Okay, any person capable of enough willingness and honesty to try repeatedly step six on all his faults without any reservations whatsoever has indeed come a long way spiritually. I would say I buy that. And I would actually even turn that into an action. I'm going to make this blue here. And I'd say the action is
And Evan, are you in the big book or 12 and 12?
this is a 12 and 12. I looked at the big book again. I didn't see enough there for us to warrant our going through there. Everything we've been doing is kind of the 12 and 12.
But you work out of the AA 12 and 12, not the DA 12 and 12, right?
A 12 and 12, yes.
Yeah, okay. That's what I thought.
So try repeatedly step six on all of my faults without any reservations. I would say that is a good action. Okay. And here's some more outdated language, and is therefore entitled to be called a man who is sincerely trying to grow in the image and likeness of his own creator. Okay. I simply couldn't stop drinking, and no human could seem to do the job for me. I think everybody here is kind of in alignment with that phrase, right? In terms of stopping the major addictions in our life, the major problems. It's like we can't do it. Only something on a different plane can do it or help us to do it. So this is an action that we want to write down. I must be willing to clean house, or I must clean house, or clean house, however you want to say it. So in other words, step 4 and even step 5 a little bit. Step 5, we are cleaning house a little bit, but we're essentially becoming aware of the dirt and the grime and the gunk, right? And step 6, we're now saying, okay, I'm ready to get rid of it. And I want you all to write this down because it's not in the book, but I feel like this is the most important thing in this whole thing is if I am using this as a cover up for a feeling, in order to be really ready to have this removed, I have to be willing to feel that feeling underneath.
Can you repeat that? If you that was a lot to write down. If I am using this as a cover up to hide my feelings,
Yeah, or let's say to avoid a specific feeling,
uh-huh.
then in order to let go of this, I must be willing to feel those feelings. And that for me, right, the reason I had you write it down is that was the key for me to this entire step. That one idea, that one thing. I have to find another way to deal with that feeling other than this character defect. I need to replace it with something. A better way of handling this. So, like, you could just say, I mean, we could, this whole notion of addictions and character defects is kind of interchangeable. I could just say that overeating is a character defect, right? I have emotional problems and I use food to numb them out, right? And in order to not use food, I need to find another way of handling those emotional problems, those difficult emotions.
So it'd
And
be the same thing as like if we overspend.
yes, exactly.
That's the overspending is the character defect.
100%. That's
We're
right.
doing it to cover up a feeling.
Yeah. Yeah. Why are we overspending? That's the
For me, I feel like it ties into my fantasy a little bit.
sure. All
Like,
that.
oh, I'm going here, I'm gonna wear this, I'm gonna look good, then I'm gonna meet my husband or, something like
That's
that.
right. Yeah. The
It
people
ties into my fantasy, my sex and love addiction, all of it. It's so, because I sit here and I'm like, oh, I don't know if I really identify, but when I go deeper, it's the fantasy.
good. Yes. So fantasy is a character defect too.
Yeah.
Fantasy is, and remember how we did it in the fourth step? We looked for the high. Fantasy, it's kind of easy to find the high. And there's no doubt in overspending, there's definitely a high. There's no question. Like when I get a bunch of packages from Amazon, I'm like, oh, okay. There's that excitement, you know?
Uh,
And
yeah.
and there's this illusion that it's going to change something. You know,
Mhm.
and in a lot of cases, it's an illusion that it's gonna make people like me more. You know, they're gonna see me in this outfit and they're gonna be like, wow, this person's got it going on. Right.
Right.
And so that is a high. There's a chemical high in that is
Hmm.
undeniable. No question about it.
But then like it gets one step crazier is like I'll buy the outfit, I fantasize that I'm gonna wear it somewhere, and then I don't ever wear
Right, because you're addicted to
it.
fantasy of it. That only proves that it's a chemical addiction. You want to be in the fantasy. That's where you get high.
Yes,
Doing
not the
it, that
reality.
has no, it has nothing to do with reality. Because when
Yeah.
you want to go out in reality, it's like, no, I don't want to do that. Forget that.
No, I want to wear like comfortable shoes and like sweatpants.
There you go. Right.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot there. There's a bunch of character defects in there that'd be good to unpack. And that'll be great. You know, it'll be good, next week or whatever, when we come back and we're looking at these, it'll be good for you guys to start to unwind these and undo these, and we'll start to see the real reasons that we're doing things. You know, and Kate, for sure, underneath there is a fear of I'm not good enough. I'm not
Hmm.
enough.
Hmm.
Whenever it comes to debting and overspending, and we don't really talk about these things a lot in this step study about these things, but for me, the root of the problem with debting and overspending is similar. Is I'm not enough right now. I need to be more than I am, which of course is always a lie.
Right.
In every given moment, what I have seen is that I'm enough and God is enough to handle any problems that come. In fact, that was the when I cut up my credit cards many, many years ago. Um, that was the understanding that I had. I said, between me and God, we're going to be able to handle everything. And so far, 28 years later, roughly, there's not a situation that's come up where I've needed to use credit cards or felt like I'm not enough and I need to be more than I am in this moment.
Hmm.
Right. So, so,
Hmm.
so again, see how it's the pain of that not enoughness that is creating the need to escape into the drug of fantasy,
Hmm.
right? And so then the real solution to letting go of these character defenses is going to be healing the I'm not good enough, I'm not worth it, whatever that is.
Yeah.
Make sense? Okay, good.
Hmm.
Hey, Dr. Raj, what exactly are you a doctor of anyway?
Doctor of Life, I'd say.
Doctor of fun.
Doctor of Fun.
A fun doctor is in the.
Yeah, yeah, fun doctor.
What's your question, Senor? Dr. Fun.
By the way, Kate, I also have the fantasy addiction that I had I had actually worked fantasy stuff in codependency.
Hmm.
I had fantasy on relationships. Didn't realize until I came into DA and UA around the money and actually and for Evan so I have the opposite of her. Like I don't overspend.
Yeah.
I underspend, and when I looked at my fourth step, I realized it's staying small.
Yeah.
And I get addicted to me staying small. And Evan, I mean, but for everyone else here, like I'm realizing as we're doing this exercise that terror is so addictive because it jacks up the chemical, like, adrenaline and stress. And then staying small is like, well, just stay small and you won't, nothing will be, So I just want to share that because
Mm.
I'm seeing it on that fourth step.
Well, and what's ironic though is, see, it's like is you're trying to expand,
Right.
right? But how does staying small go with your expansion? It doesn't. It fights against it. So it's like again, all the times that I talk about what's the point of putting, your foot down on the gas and saying let's go if you've got three on the brake,
Mm.
right? So again, you see parts of yourself that are addicted smallness and staying small and keeping everything safe and manageable and not growing. So there's parts of you that are like, your expansion plan? Heck no, it's not getting through committee. We are shutting this down right now. Yeah. Okay. Become willing to clean house, right? So now we're willing to sort of let go of these things that we're doing. And whatever they are, it doesn't matter. Whether it's food or overspending, doesn't matter. Okay. I'm skipping this because it's not worth our time. Okay, every normal person wants, for example, to eat, to reproduce, to be somebody in the society of his fellows, and he wishes to be reasonably safe and secure as he tries to attain these things. I think that's a pretty fair statement. We all have these desires to fit in and feed ourselves and to reproduce and all of that, right? So that's pretty fair. And part of their saying is it's like you're never going to be perfect because you're always going to have these wants and needs. Here's this part here. This is so one of the issues I have with this is it sets up this whole notion of looking for perfection or moving toward perfection. Okay, so let's see. So most of us are born with an abundance of natural desires. It isn't strange that we often let these far exceed their intended purpose. When they drive us blindly or we willfully demand that they supply us with more satisfactions or pleasures than are possible or due us, that is the point at which we depart from the degree of perfection that God wishes for us here on earth. That is the measure of our character defects, or if you wish, our sins. I do not wish. Okay. Okay, so here's this. But in no case does he render us white as snow and keep us that way without our cooperation. That is something we are supposed to be willing to work toward ourselves. He asks only that we try as best we know to make progress in the building of character. So this is essentially the main issue I have with this. It's like the basic actions in this thing are you're never going to make it to perfection, but try to build this character. And I disagree with all of this wholeheartedly. Okay, so I'm not going to be shy about it. Because when we're saying you're building this new character, this is where we get into all sorts of trouble. And we have been doing these steps, I think everybody can say, on a deeper level than just the normal steps, right? We've been going deeper because we've been looking at trauma and we've been looking at parts. And so when we get into building our new character, there's a real problem with that because now the ego is trying to make it better. Remember my original example. Evan was trying to fix his know-it-allism. Never going to work, right? So one of the basic premises here is we cannot fix this shit. We cannot fix any of this. Now it says we have to show up and do some stuff to sort of show up for God 100%. We absolutely have to show up in the way that we do in steps 1 and 2. We have to be willing to turn this over. We have to be willing to surrender, and we have to be willing and to open and invite God in. 100%, we have to do that.
Mhm.
But this notion of we are working toward perfection, I would not recommend that as a path for you guys to really let go of your character defects. So I'm going to recommend other things. Okay, it says we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. So I would change that action to be entirely ready. Or probably even better said, get yourself entirely ready, which comes back to my earlier thing. I'm going to change be entirely ready to get yourself. So now this becomes your work because only you know what it's going to take to get yourself ready. Only you know what it's going to take to pack your suitcases to go on vacation. If I tried to pack your suitcase, I would not, I'd leave out the hair dryer or whatever, or the razor, or, I'd get the wrong pillow. You have to know, you have to figure out what's going to help to get you ready. Because readiness is our criteria. You guys see that? Be entirely ready. We don't want to take step 7. And the thing is people are not entirely ready. That's the problem with it. It's like they do all this stuff, but they're not ready to let go of this thing. which we'll explore. This is the best attitude one can take in order to make a beginning on this lifetime job. I think that's fair. Having the attitude of I'm entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. That's an important piece. I open myself to the divine making these changes in me. My job is to be willing and like back in step 1 and step 2, my verbs, my actions are to allow, to listen, to open. So same thing here. I need to be open, ready, and willing to have God change me, not me change me. If we're involved in it, it's going to be a fiasco. So it says, this does not mean we expect all our character defects to be lifted out of us as the drive to drink was. I disagree with that. I say we can't expect that as long as we're willing to do what we just said. I think there's no character defect in here that we shouldn't be have an expectation that it can go away. I like this a lot. How many of us have this degree of readiness? In an absolute sense, nobody has it. That's right. That's why we have to do this step. So when we start in step 1 or step 2, we have not surrendered. We are working toward that surrender, right? It says hit bottom. We haven't hit the bottom yet. We have to be open and ready and willing toward hitting the bottom. And how do we do that? We follow all the other instructions in step 1, right? Which are see my hopelessness, admit my absolute, I can't remember now. Uh, you know what I'm talking about. Okay. So that's what we're working on. We're working on readiness. And like I said, the key to being ready is being willing to feel what this is covering up. Okay. So before I do this, I'm going to let you know what the assignment is for the week. So the assignment for the week is to go back and like we did here in the 4th step, like I was showing you earlier, right? You need to come back here to, so we put the character defenses up here. How am I protecting? Okay, staying small, never risking, so I can't fail, living in fantasy, blaming, projecting, avoiding responsibility. Blaming and projecting should be on everybody's list because that's what the essence of the of resentments are. Looking for love in all the wrong places, trying to get worth from a job. Right. So now, so you go through and you just make a list of your character defenses that you have so far. And then what you want to do with that list is you want to say, why would I not be willing to let this go? In other words, how is it working for me? Because this is the reality. You do not want to let this go. You are scared to let these character defects go. Because if you let them go, you do not know what will happen to you. You're afraid something bad will happen to you.
And Evan, what's the question? We ask, how would we live without these? What is it? Or no?
Yeah, it's like, why would I not want to let this go? And so what you come up with is a list of reasons of why it works for you. So let's say, and we're going to touch this in a second in the text, but let's say I can't let go of this thing of I just need to feel better than other people, right? Why do I want to keep that around? Because I get a high. And this is a really good example of one. And we're going to, again, it's coming up in the text here. Why would that character defect be there? Why do I need to feel better than others? Anybody having a guess on that one?
To feel enough.
Right, because I don't feel enough. You see, that's the fix. So what happens is I feel worthless or whatever it is. I'm not worth anything. Nobody loves me. I'm not good enough. And so then I get this faux hit, which this was one of my really big ones for a long time. I love to feel better than other people but that's what I used for self-esteem because I didn't have any. I didn't have any real sense of my own worth. And so the only way I could feel like I was worth something was to feel better than somebody. because I felt so bad. So I couldn't be with the pain of I'm worthless. So I got fake worth out of like, but I'm better than this person. I'm better than them at this. And if you can feel into that, and again, this is a feeling exercise, the charge I get out of feeling better than other people. Ooh, delicious. It does not, it's one of those things like alcohol. It doesn't work for me in the same way anymore. It's now it feels a bit like poison. I see it and I recoil a bit from a hot flame. It's like, ooh. And I'm sure there's still places when I'm playing pickleball, I'm sure, where I lapse into that. But that's fair. That's sport.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So everybody gets the
And I
yes,
want to say, like, I feel like I have that superiority and the inferiority, like,
you
you know,
absolutely
it's
do.
like,
I was gonna mention it. I'm glad you said it first. No, I'm just kidding.
yeah, like I feel like I, still suffer from that because it's like the grandiosity is tied in with the fantasy. And then
Sure.
it's like I think I'm better than, but really then I think I'm less than. It's like just finding the balance,
I would say no, it's not finding the balance. I would say it's getting down to the pain of I feel worthless. It's not, there's no balance. You don't need to balance out I feel worthless with I feel worthwhile. See, that right there is a perfect example of the ego trying to mend this situation.
Right.
That's not going to work, Kate. I'm just telling you now, you could try that. That is never going to work.
So
I
what,
can guarantee you that.
so what works? Feeling the feeling?
That's right. Is you have to start to heal this sense of worthlessness that causes you to reach for this grandiosity.
Right.
Because once you face the worthlessness, you won't reach for grandiosity because that sense of worthlessness will have dissipated, and underneath it, you will actually feel and see your own worth.
Yeah. I get that.
Yeah. And then you will be in the balance. But it's not a
Mhm.
balance between you'll be balanced because you'll be you.
I
And
don't,
you
I don't, I don't get, I don't create the balance. God does.
exactly.
Got it.
By getting rid of this counterweight over here and this counterweight over here. I don't need either of these weights. These are both sicknesses.
Yeah.
The
Yes.
because that is not real self-esteem. That's not real knowing your worth. It's fear.
Mhm.
It's fear. It's
Mhm.
pain. And it
Mhm.
feels kind of good in a way, in the same way that alcohol felt good. But then once you move on a bit, you're kind of like, actually, alcohol's poison. I
For
don't really
real.
want that. And this
Yeah.
is poison too. Trying to feel better than somebody else is poison.
Yeah.
But
Well, it's like I want to feel not better than the person, but maybe like look better in terms of like what I'm gonna buy to wear or something. Like it's a
right.
story,
Yeah.
you know.
Because you want to be seen and you want to be desired.
Mm-hmm.
Like I had that as a filmmaker. I wanted to go out. My plan for developing relationships in life, and that's where this really was I'm going to go out and I'm going to make amazing movies, and then people are going to love me and worship me from a distance.
Mm-hmm.
Was that for
Uh-huh.
the plan? That's the
Uh-huh.
worst plan ever.
Uh-huh.
But that's
Right.
kind of what your plan is.
Yeah.
You're going
And
to see
it
me and
just
they're going to think I'm so fabulous. They're going to be like,
but
"Whoa,
But here's the thing, right? Like when does it get to the point where like I guess it's where sponsorship comes in, like direction, like when are you allowed to spend money on yourself? Like and then how much and within
Well,
reason,
but I would say,
like
yeah, when it's true, right? In other words, you should
mm-hmm,
spend money on yourself. You should affirm your own worth.
mm-hmm.
And the best way to do that, I think, is kind of developing two-way prayer and getting in
All
touch
right.
with yourself. If you're relying on your sponsor to tell you what is okay and what isn't, you,
Mm-hmm.
that's okay in the short term. For a period of time, that's okay until you
Right.
learn it for yourself. But there are people who stay stuck like that in program where they farm those kind of decisions out to other people.
Right.
Yes, it's more sane, but it doesn't ever really develop true worth and true knowing of yourself and true peace.
Mhm.
You know,
So the
it's
two-way prayer is the way to go.
I think I
It's
think
interesting because like I've been around for a while. I don't really do the two-way prayer. And I'm going to pray for the willingness to do two-way prayer.
I would recommend it highly. It's the best way that
Yeah.
I know of to start to tap into that deeper wisdom.
Okay.
That's essential
Okay.
because this is what you're going to replace these character defects with, this deeper wisdom.
Mm.
Okay, let me jump into this thing here. So everybody's clear on the assignment? Anybody have any questions about the assignment? Okay, good. Yes, Raj?
Yeah, so we're gonna list, which is awesome. We're gonna list, the protection mechanisms, essentially, which are character defenses,
Yep.
and answer why would I not let go of these.
Yeah, and there may be more than one answer to that, right? So
Got it.
maybe 5 or 6 things. There might be 5 or 6 reasons why I don't want to let go of this.
Okay.
Mhm.
We want to start to get honest. There's a point in here where they say we love these things, and I think there's some truth to that. Sort of. Okay. So this right here, I just want to read this because I think this is all pretty brilliant here. So basically, they say in here kind of what Jesus said when Jesus came along. Jesus came along and basically said, like, look, don't feel too good about yourselves just because you're not murdering people and you're not stealing from them. Okay, the scale is a little bit more finely tuned than that, right? And so that's what they're saying here. Don't just because you're not killing people, don't feel good about yourself. Look at how these other things are affecting your life. So what we must recognize now is that we exult in some of our defects. We really love them. For example, doesn't like to feel just a little superior to the next fellow, or even quite a lot. Isn't it true that we like to let greed masquerade as ambition? To think of liking lust seems impossible, but how many men and women speak love with their lips and believe what they say so they can hide their lust in a dark corner of their minds? And even while staying within conventional bounds, many people have to admit that their imaginary sex excursions are apt to be all dressed up in dreams of romance. So
Mhm.
whether you agree with all of this stuff or not, the important thing here is to get that we all have all these character defects, right? We all have all of these to some degree or another. And what you're doing is you're dealing with the ones that are the most extreme, right? Because those are the ones hiding the most pain. Self-righteous anger can also be very enjoyable. In a very perverse way, we can actually take satisfaction from the fact that many people annoy us, where it brings up a comfortable feeling of superiority. Gossip, that's a good one. Um, what else is it? Criticize, gluttony, right? So all of these things, these are all things that we all have. These are all aspects of the ego and of the sort of lower self. And so it's important to, like, we don't ever want to be in a situation where we go, well, I don't have that. It's like you do. It may not be as serious, but we all have it. So to understand that we all, and I guess, this comes full circle back to the sort of Christianity thing. It's just like we are all stuck in the ego. And the ego is essentially sinful by nature because it doesn't perceive reality. It doesn't see the truth that we're all okay. All it sees is fear and lack and non-safety, and it's trying to protect us all the time, right? So that's why it reaches out for all of these things. Um, you can go through and look at that list if you're short on character defects. Okay, the only urgent thing is that we keep making a beginning and keep trying. We have to show up, right? And I like this too. Make a brand new venture into open-mindedness.
Mm.
To really let go of these things, you're going to have to let go of your ideas of how to solve them, right? And have an open mind. And then this I disagree with. We shall need to raise our eyes toward perfection and be ready to walk in that direction. Eh. The only question will be, are we ready? And that's the question. So you can keep testing yourself. It's like by looking at this, and we'll do a little bit more work next week to go a little bit more deeper. We'll get into the whole parts aspect of this and how to sort of get some real distance from this stuff, which will help us to get some perspective and let go of some of these character defects. And then I'd be very interested to see if you have some of these character defects that say, no, never, I will never let this go. If you have some of those, that'd be great. I'd love to hear some of those. That'd be fun. Okay, so there we go. Gosh, the people who didn't come today, they sure missed a lot. They are going to be playing catch up. They might even be spiritually behind you guys for years, suckers. Okay, yes, Kelly?
One question. Can
Okay.
you give me an example of get yourself ready? What would that actually look like?
So the way that it worked for me and it's a great question, was I think I was working with self-hatred. And I realized that to let go of self-hatred, I was going to have to feel all of this self-hatred. In other words, I was going to have to take the journey. I was going to have to surrender this to God and say, okay, wherever you want to take me on this, I'm willing to go. Does that make sense? Like I'm willing to go through whatever hell I have to go through or whatever it is to be rid of this. That's kind of the thing. When you're kind of ready to say, all right, I'm ready to take this journey. I'm ready to see it to the end. That's kind of what I mean. Does that make sense?
Total sense.
It does for you. Does it for you, Kate? Yeah, okay. Okay. Any other questions? You guys have your assignment. Very exciting. So, from this point, I know, right? From this point, I'd say for the first 3 steps, especially the 12 and 12 and all that is great, as we get in here. And step 7 is the simplest step there is. Humbly ask God to remove these shortcomings. Because it's very easy, because once you've actually done step 6, then step 7 is pretty easy. You just say, okay, let's go. Let's go ahead and do this journey, and let's go ahead, God. And then we get into 8, 9, and 10, right? And these are very well known. And so we'll explore that when we get there. All right, well, that's all I have to say about it today. So hopefully I didn't desecrate or denigrate anybody's treasuring of the holy articles of the 12 steps and 12 traditions. Again, all this stuff is very meaningful to me. And again, the only reason I sort of veer away from it is where I feel like there's a truer way to do the intention of the step. We're not trying to get away from the intention of the step. The intention of the step is right on. Become ready to let go of things that are no longer working for us, things that we're using to hide from life and our greatness, etc. Okay. All right. Well, thanks, guys. Have a wonderful day. Good luck with this. Well, I'll see
Thank you.
you next week. I'm
See you
looking
next
forward
week.
to next week. This should be really fun to
Me
dive
too.
into this stuff. Yeah. All right.
Yeah, I appreciate your time. Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Evan,
See you
thanks,
Thanks,
guys.
later.
Evan.
Cheers.
Thanks, y'all.
Bye.